silence. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome onto the podium your host for this evening, Chief Minister of Gibraltar, Fabian Picardo.
Ministers, members of Parliament, peers, ambassadors, governors, friends all, welcome. Welcome to this annual celebration of Gibraltar's partnership with the United Kingdom. Up here, surrounded by friends, we're entitled to feel on top of the world. Surrounded by stunning views of the most wonderful city in the world. Surrounded by the place the Foreign Secretary memorably and rightly called the most Funkopolitan metropolis on the planet. But it was not ever thus for the people of Gibraltar in London. 75 years ago, we were amongst you here in London too, evacuated here and elsewhere. Here, the bombs fell on Gibraltarians as they fell on other Britons in the Blitz. The Gibraltarians returned home and rallied. We grew and we prospered. And 50 years ago, in partnership with Britain, we voted in a referendum to remain British. That is what we celebrate this year. Thank you. And celebrating it here with you, with the London of the Blitz resurgent as ever, is particularly poignant. For Gibraltar is resurgent also. Since last year, I can honestly say our feet have hardly touched the ground. Is it really only 17 months since the referendum? Is it really only 7 months since the Article 50 notice was given? Well, it is true that 12 months ago, the way ahead for all of us looked a little challenging in places. But I'm very glad to say that a great deal of real teamwork has more than paid off. Many anxieties that were rehearsed in newspapers, TV debates, coffee tables, and in our own boardrooms have passed. Together with our colleagues and friends in the whole of Parliament, in DEXU and in the FCO, we have looked at the bigger picture. We've grasped with pragmatism what the moment required. We have energetically and enthusiastically run with the Brexit ball. And the news is clear. The headline is simple. Gibraltar has enjoyed a fantastic year. Investment is up. Hundreds of millions of pounds are being invested by the private sector into Gibraltar, demonstrating confidence in our fundamentals and in our future. Government revenue is up nearly 75% since we took office. GDP has grown on average 10% in the same period. Our GDP per capita ratio remains the 4th in the world. Jobs have grown. The number of jobs in our economy is up over 20% in the same period. Unemployment for the quarter was down to a record low of 85 people. Yes, in Gibraltar we measure unemployment per head. And entrepreneurs have opened their eyes wide to the opportunities that exist to distill new streams of business and growth. In fact, the result of June 2016 reminded Gibraltar that we just cannot stand still. We cannot take what we have for granted. Our particular brand of the Dunkirk spirit has kicked in. The spirit of the evacuation generation who would not be kept away from their rock. The spirit of the referendum generation who would not be bullied into surrendering their love of Britain. The spirit that led us all to work harder and up our game. Commerce and government in Gibraltar have been working relentlessly these past 12 months in that spirit. And that has done us all proud. Between us, my Deputy Chief Minister Joseph Garcia, the Attorney General Michael Llamas, and our teams have been in and out of London almost fortnightly. And in doing this work, we have strengthened the bonds of trust and confidence between Her Majesty's respective governments in London and Gibraltar. Trust and confidence bolstered by a commitment to common regulatory standards between us. Trust and confidence not limited to matters of sovereignty, but also extending to the commercial relationship between both governments. We have developed an unprecedentedly close and productive working relationship with the Foreign Office Gibraltar team and its DEXU equivalent. We have worked hard and productively with the Treasury. We've demonstrated a mutual single ambition of ensuring that we consolidate our long-standing political and economic bonds. And in doing so, we have built on that partnership of trust that will protect the core interests of all of us in the British family of nations. And as we reposition ourselves as a gateway to global commerce, as we reposition ourselves into a new relationship with the European Union and its nations, there are perhaps even greater challenges for us all to contend with than just the thorny issue of trade. Security is at the forefront of all our concerns, and in this, Gibraltar, as ever, will not be found wanting. Whether it be in relation to the safety and security of the British people, or the people of the global family of peace-loving, democratic nations allied to the United Kingdom, or in taking very seriously our international obligation to fight terrorism and organized crime, Gibraltar will be there. Transparent, modern, progressive, a willing trading partner to the nations of the world. Because Her Majesty's Treasury knows that we will approach our continued right to access the United Kingdom market in financial services with a deep sense of responsibility towards consumers in particular. And as the work of the United Kingdom's Department for International Trade opens up to us access to new markets around the world, we will export that responsibility wherever our companies trade. We will regard our right to find customers in those new markets with a deep sense of focus on safeguarding consumers, committed to transparency, customer-focused and consumer-assuring, world-class, robust regulation, whether in the virtual world of cryptocurrencies or in the real world of pounds, shillings and pence. That's who we are. That is what we stand for. That is what we will represent to the City of London, to British consumers and to the international business community. They will see us always alongside Britain. As we were 2 months ago, provisioning HMS Ocean to cross the Atlantic, doing our bit for our British kin in the Caribbean overseas territories. As we were 35 years ago, converting the Uganda into a hospital ship for her Atlantic crossing in the Falklands campaign. As we were over 200 years ago, this week, when Nelson sailed HMS Victory to battle at Trafalgar, always alongside Britain in partnership, in times of hardship, as well as in times of plenty. And the most recent emanation of that partnership is the relationship between our two governments. I spoke earlier of the good rapport we have established between HMG and HMGOG. I'm delighted, therefore, that Robin Walker, who leads on Gibraltar at DEXU, is here tonight and will be responding in just a few moments. From the very first moment we met in the long, hot summer of 2016, Robin has been truly supportive. I'm delighted to say that we've had identical support from Sir Alan Duncan at the Foreign Office, and with their teams, they've opened new doors in Whitehall to the Treasury and other departments. That has given Gibraltar the confidence to move forward without looking back. Gibraltar has never felt closer and more intimately tied into the British family as it does today. The support of the British people and across Parliament has been palpable, not just to us, but beyond your shores and ours also. And in particular, I want to warmly thank Bob Neal and the all-party Gibraltar Group in Parliament. The support of the whole House of Commons is important in making others realise that Gibraltar will not be a victim in the process of leaving the European Union. We will continue to be a commercial, social and economic success story, a Mediterranean powerhouse of trade and growth. And in that respect, our geopolitical reality can be an advantage for us and our neighbours, and not a hindrance. I therefore warmly welcome the improved tone that has emanated from Spanish Foreign Minister Alfonso Dastis. But even in music, tone is not everything. Because whilst the mood music may have changed, we will not change our choice of dancing partner. Nothing will shake our unshakable desire and passion to remain British. But there is a lot to be done without crossing red lines on sovereignty, jurisdiction, or control. Our respective positions should not stop us from taking steps forward in cooperation for the mutual socio-economic benefit of Gibraltar and its neighbouring region. Along with cross-border commercial associations, trade unions, and officials of the towns neighbouring Gibraltar, I'm convinced that we can build on the foundations of our existing fluid economic cooperation. We stand ready to enhance the benefits flow in both directions across the frontier. With passion and imagination, we can use this moment to nurture and not extinguish or strain the existing virtuous circle that sees our commercial entities flourish thanks to labour and professional services from the Spanish region around us. We can work together to continue Gibraltar's mutually beneficial economic growth and to play a leading role in our neighbouring towns' right and proper ambition to build a better economic model for itself. But we should do that in a manner that is complementary and not with our backs to each other. That is our aim. How poignant, then, to be reminded this week that Nelson's prayer before the Battle of Trafalgar was for a great and glorious victory, not just for the United Kingdom, but for the benefit of Europe in general. No one should doubt that such a result is as much in everyone's interest today in Brussels as it was then, 212 years ago, off Cape Trafalgar. But one thing I know you will have no doubt about. Whether here in London, the scene of the blitz that our evacuation generation endured, or in Gibraltar, where our referendum generation stood firm, all around us, we hear the whispers of the Gibraltarian women of those generations. We hear the murmur of the Gibraltarian men of those times, and we are the echo of their passion that lives on in us. What they felt, we feel. What they said, we say. British we are, British we stay, British forever. Thank you.
Well, Chief Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's an enormous pleasure and a significant challenge to follow the Chief Minister in such a fantastic speech and to be here celebrating the strong links between Gibraltar and the UK, epitomised by the deep and long-standing ties between the Rock and this city. This building is perhaps an apt location for tonight's celebrations. Its famous outline is innovative, distinctive and recognisable in silhouette. It fuses historical foundations with cutting-edge technology and contemporary design. And of course, it is home to many successful and thriving insurance companies, though from what I understand, the tunnel complex here is rather less impressive than that in Gibraltar. But tonight, staying true to our shared values of innovation and industry, the room is full of colleagues committed to ensuring that the partnership between Gibraltar and the UK continues to be prosperous and mutually beneficial. Fabian spoke passionately about the history between us, and I won't be able to match his eloquence in speaking about Nelson and the Blitz, but of course, in the presence of my colleague, the Minister for the Armed Forces, we should remember that we owe to Gibraltar our Royal Marines and our Royal Engineers. This year is a very special one for the UK and Gibraltar's shared relationship, because 50 years ago, the people of Gibraltar decided by an overwhelming majority to stay part of the United Kingdom family. It was a huge expression of the people of Gibraltar's desire to stay British. And this desire remains undimmed today, as we just heard. This was very clear to me when I visited Gibraltar in March, when I spoke to countless people from all walks of life who were unequivocal that they wanted and valued the historic relationship with the UK and wanted that to continue. I'm confident that in the half-century since the 1967 referendum, the UK has met the solemn commitment that that vote required of us, and I can assure you that the UK remains equally committed to Gibraltar today. By continuing to develop and strengthen our links, we have worked together to help make Gibraltar the thriving business centre that it is today. But developing our relationship doesn't and will not end here. As we take our next step and leave the European Union, we're committed to fully involving Gibraltar. We will ensure that your priorities are taken into account as we develop our future relationship with the EU and embark on our next steps as global Britain. I've taken great pleasure, and it has genuinely been a pleasure, to chair the Joint Ministerial Council Gibraltar on EU negotiations. It is the main forum for the UK and the Government of Gibraltar to discuss issues arising from our withdrawal from the European Union. And the JMC has now met 4 times, and I'm hugely heartened by the productive and fruitful discussions that we've been having. The JMC has, as the Chief Minister said, been a catalyst for a number of groups working in different areas and discussions between our governments. These groups are looking at a wide range of specific policy issues stemming from our withdrawal, where Gibraltar has an interest. They report back to the JMC, and I am proud of the achievements so far. Through one, we have agreed that our 2 governments will continue to work closely on financial services, in particular committing to a programme of work on insurance, which we know is a crucial sector for Gibraltar's thriving economy. That work is now well underway, and as our respective governments and regulators continue to engage constructively, I know that many of Gibraltar's business audiences heard from the Economic Secretary to the Treasury today. Another working group is looking at the world-leading online gaming industry. Gibraltar is a world leader in that sector, and it's natural that we want to discuss mutual opportunities to ensure that Gibraltar continues to excel and exploit new opportunities in this fast-moving space. Our objective is to ensure that there will be no cliff edge on exit day for the provision of insurance, financial and other services between the UK and Gibraltar. We intend to deliver a seamless continuation into the post-Brexit era to maintain and enhance our current trading relations. There are also other groups that are discussing significant issues of aviation, the border and the environment, and I hope that, as with the others, these groups will continue to be mutually beneficial to both governments, ensuring we're prepared for a new future outside the EU together. Beyond the EU, there is a whole world waiting to trade with the UK and with Gibraltar. Gibraltar already trades with countries from Azerbaijan to the USA. When it comes to harnessing these global opportunities, we've agreed between our 2 governments to put in place a mechanism for ensuring that Gibraltar is consulted on the free trade agreements the UK will negotiate outside the EU. The renewed focus of the Government of Gibraltar on quality regulation and reputation will serve it very well. They are values which are recognised across boundaries and which will continue to stand Gibraltar in good stead for the future, as they do now. As we seek to negotiate trade deals across the world, a high standard of regulation and oversight will serve to underpin our partners' confidence in us. As the Prime Minister said in her message for Gibraltar Day celebrations, as we face the opportunities and challenges to come, the UK will stand firmly beside you. There is something that I haven't said so far tonight, but I will say it now. It's something that I promise no UK government minister will tire of saying. The double lock commitment on sovereignty stands firm. The UK will never enter into arrangements under which the people of Gibraltar would pass under the sovereignty of another state against their wishes. Furthermore, the UK will not enter into any sovereignty negotiations with which Gibraltar is not content. As long as you desire it, Gibraltar is and will be a valued part of the UK family. We will certainly wish to see that partnership endure. So let us now continue tonight's wonderful celebration of a valued partnership that has been long, prosperous and thriving, and will continue to be so into the future. I can assure you all that my commitment to working with Gibraltar to make this process a success for all of us remains as solid as the rock. And 50 years since the 67 referendum, the commitment of Her Majesty's Government to Gibraltar's success and its place in our family is as strong as ever.